Richelle Clark, LPC MHNCC. Evangelist Clark is a licensed professional counselor of mental health and the owner of the TLC Counseling Services, LLC, local in Delaware. In addition, she works for Children and Families First as the Sussex County team leader for the Behavioral Health Consultant Program. Evangelist Clark also serves as a clinical supervisor for pre-licensed clinicians for SOAR. Evangelist Clark accepted the Lord as her personal Savior in 1995. She attends Calvary Pentecostal Church in Bishopville, Maryland, under the leadership of Pastor Sharon Williams and Pastor Rosie Hall. Evangelist Clark was ordained in 2018 as an evangelist. She serves as a part of the intercessory prayer team, head of the sound team, church secretary, and pastor's armor bearer. Evangelist Clark's biggest passion, aside from serving God, is to bring mental health awareness to the church. Her desire is to educate the body of Christ, pastors, leaders, and lay members about mental health. Evangelist Clark desires to see the body of Christ set free from past traumas and those things that hold them back from becoming all that God created them to be, to see the saints walking in their full God-given authority in Christ. I would like to present to some and introduce to others my therapist, Evangelist Richelle Clark.
For having me. Thank you, Ray, for the invite. I appreciate you. I'm going to set up a PowerPoint, and those on this side, I don't know if you can see it, but if you can't, if you would be so gracious to move to the other side, I'm going to have my daughter come and assist me. This is my newly licensed therapist, my daughter, Elisha Davis. And I want to say thank you to my sister evangelist, Darlene, for being here to support me on this morning. And we're going to be talking, now, Pastor Gibson that messed me up because he got y'all all excited and all hyped up. And I got pretty heavy subject matter that we're going to talk about this morning. And so what I want you to be mindful of while I'm talking this morning is to take care of you. If you need to step out because this is too much, I get it. It's too much when I had to go through it. So, and it was a lot putting it together even on this past week. So take care of you in this process. If you need to walk out, take a minute, absolutely do so and come back when you can, okay? I think they're trying to get it together, y'all. So in the meantime, while they messing with that, I'm going to start off with a word of prayer, and then we'll jump right into everything. So, Father, we thank you and we praise you for everything that has been said and done on this morning. Father, we ask, God, that you would allow the people, God, that have been sitting in here on this morning, those that are on their way, God, to take everything, God, that has been given. God, that they would remember the tools and the techniques that have been taught on today. God, thank you for this convocation. God, we thank you for the bishop even allowing us to come and be a part of his church's convocation on this morning. Father, I'm asking that you would have your way. Holy Spirit, continue to dwell in this place all day long. I pray that you would just use me for your glory to speak what you would have me to speak. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. So this morning I'm going to be presenting on coping with grief and loss and then understanding the grieving process. This grieving process has been up close and personal for me. December of 20, my husband got really sick, and we didn't know, he wasn't the type to ever get sick. So I knew when he said, hey, I need to go to the doctor, something was wrong because he never went to the doctor. and they found a tumor, and we found out in December of 20 that it was cancerous, that it needed to be removed. They were going to remove the tumor, and then he was going to go through chemo, and go through that whole process. They went in December of 20, could not remove the tumor. So they said, okay, we can't remove it, so we're going to give him a colostomy. We're going to do all this. We'll take him through chemo, shrink the tumor, and then we'll go back in, remove everything, and we'll see where things stand. By the first visit in January, they were telling us that it had metastasized to his liver, and there was nothing that they could do. They kept giving him treatment. The treatment was working really well. The numbers were plummeting, and I was like, yeah, Jesus get ready to do this. Yeah, we get ready to be a walking miracle. And I believed God literally up until the day that my husband transitioned from this life. July of 22, sent me a text message at like 2 something in the morning saying, babe, can you come here? And I go out. He's like, I need to go to the hospital. What's wrong? I can't breathe. We get to the hospital. He now has a blood clot in his lung, and he's not breathing well. And the doctors are saying to me, Miss Clark, we're sorry. He's transitioning. I was like, I hear you. I hear you. But no, this is not what's happening. Jesus is going to show up in this room. And I looked at him and I was like, babe, we still going to fight this, right? And he's like, just looking at me like, Lord, please help my wife, because I'm leaving here. I'm going to be with you, but my wife is going to need you. That's the look he gave me. Reflection do something to you when you look back on them moments. So hospice nurse came in. Again, she let me know that he was transitioning. They gave him some medicine because he had a infection, and he says to me, babe, go home and get some rest. So we live maybe 10 minutes from the hospital. Go home and get some rest. And I go lay down. Not that I'm resting, but I attempt to, and I get a phone call. And the nurse says, he's asking for you. And I said, what's wrong? And she said, he's asking for you. He just told me to call. And when I get to the hospital, I walk in. I'm like, babe, what's wrong? He's like, babe, I'm ready to go. Now me, because I am still, y'all, this is not happening in my world, okay? I said, you ready to go home with me? And he didn't say anything. He just kind of didn't respond, just looked away. I knew what was happening, but I was not willing to accept what was happening, even though it was happening. Everybody's telling me it's happening, and I'm watching it. And 9 o'clock, you okay? Okay. 9 o'clock that night, my church family, and he said in the process of all of this, I need you to call the family. And I was like, okay, well, who do you want me to call? And he's like, babe, call everybody. Well, our church family was our family. Aside from my parents, of course, our children who were already there, his mom, the church family was it. So I began to call everybody, and it spread like wildfire. When I tell you Calvary had this place packed out, they showed up. They stayed with me. Some of them left, went home, changed clothes, and came back, because by this time they've moved him upstairs to the hospice floor, and we're just waiting for him to transition. 9 o'clock that night, my husband transitions. I felt it when it happened. There was this in the room. I felt it. And I was like, But I thought it was just me, because I'm cold-natured anyway, so I thought it was me. And I didn't realize until a couple days later, my pastor felt it. And her and I were talking, and we were talking about this, and it was the exact moment that my girlfriend said, Shaw, I don't think he's breathing anymore. I said, okay, go get the nurse. And my daughter and my son had gone to my son's apartment to get some things, and I immediately was like, okay, where are my children? Somebody call my children, get on the phone, get my kids. They come in, things are falling apart. I am so numb that I'm there, but I'm not. It's almost like I'm having an out of body experience. I'm there. I clearly know what's happening, but I haven't cried. I'm numb, but I'm all about where are my children. Let me take care of my kids. My son is 23 years old, sitting in my lap like an infant, sobbing. My son-in-law, he can't help his wife because he's on the wall sobbing, but my church family. Thank God for my church family. So they took care of us. My daughter and I were talking because one of the sisters came in. She said, I can't believe that this is happening. Shell, can I pray? Because you know Jesus raised Lazarus and he had been dead for a minute. And I was like, hey, if Jesus won't bring him back, I'm all for it, okay? Now, I don't know how I'm going to respond exactly if this happens, okay? So I'm sitting like transparency, y'all. Like, I want it to happen for real because I want my husband back. But can I handle this if this man start breathing and raise up out of his bed? I don't know what I'm going to do. But I'm here for it. I'm watching. My girlfriend, she's at his feet and she's praying. I mean, she is praying. And I remember sitting, just kind of waiting, and I'm listening to her prayer and I'm agreeing with it, but I got this one eye. You know, I'm opening this one eye because I'm waiting for the sheets to start moving, right? And in that instant, the Lord let me see my husband standing with him. And I was immediately within myself. I said, he's not coming back here? Why would he? I know he loved me. I know he loved his kids. He know we going to go through for a minute. But this is what we've been living for. To meet the Father. And so we moved on and God has blessed us. So I want to talk to y'all about processing grief, because the reality is we all going to suffer through grief, right? And yes, it may be loved ones, but you can grieve relationships, period. Because in the midst of my grieving, my husband's passing, I've lost two very close friendships. They're physically here on the earth, but we're not connected anymore. And so now I had to figure out how to process the grief of that. Because at the worst time of my life, I don't want to have to grieve that too. But I did. So when we talk about grief, we're talking about loss. Whether it's physically losing a loved one, whether it's losing a job, whether it's losing a relationship with friends, families, siblings, children, because we fall out of relationships with people. And it's not always good, right? So we want to talk about that today. I'm sorry, Elisha, you can go ahead and skip through that. Thank you. I can't even. Oh, thank you. So the experience of grief, I always say is, when I think about grief, I think about the ocean. It's like a wave. And that's what I've been doing. I've been riding the wave of grief. Well, why in the world would she say it's like an ocean? Because it's always moving, always going. You never are quite done with grief, to be honest. I will never stop missing my husband. I don't care what phase of life I get to, I will always miss that man. We were together for 25 years. We were married for 22, and he passed 2 days before our 23rd wedding anniversary. I asked him quite often time, like, what was y'all thinking? Like, couldn't you did another time? Like 2 days before? But, Jesus' timing is perfect, so, But it does. It hits like a wave. It's fluid, always moving, always changing. But you're always in it. The key is ride the wave. Got to learn how to ride the wave. And I'm hoping that by the time I'm done today, I can teach y'all how to ride the wave of grief. Because it's inevitable. It's going to happen. Yes. Thank you. most of you have probably heard about the stages of grief. Now, I do realize that, like our profession is always changing something. Like, just so they done added like 2 or 3 more stages to this, and I looked at them. They don't make a whole lot of sense to me because it just feel like they repeating the same information. So I'm gonna go with the basics, y'all. These same 5 stages, right? Because the stuff they tacking on fall right into this anyway. I don't even know what the point is. But people want to be fancy. They want to sell books and all that stuff. We're gonna go with the basics. So the first stage of grief, and really, I'm calling it the first stage, but you literally can go in any order in these, okay? So the first stage of grief is the stage of denial. It's usually that coping mechanism. This ain't happening. This is not real. The day that my husband was transitioning, I was like, nah. This is why I was so numb, because I had to cope. My mind and my emotions could not handle the reality of what was happening in my world in that moment. So I went in denial. Everybody loving on me, people showing up. I know why they showing up. I know what they doing. They all in the room. I done walked out and took a break. I realize what is happening, but I'm in denial. This is not going to happen to me. It's not. It's the shock of everything. Can't believe it's happening. Feels like a bad dream. I said that for quite a while, like I keep waiting for that moment that I'm going to wake up and realize this was just a bad dream. That this really did not happen, that I was just living a nightmare, and it just lasted for a little while. But that never was my case. Go ahead. Stage 2, anger. This is what they call the masking phase, right? Because I'm getting mad, and I'm mad at people. I'm mad at doctors. I'm mad at my husband. We don't like to talk about being mad with the deceased, but it's a real thing. It happens. And I'm going to say this, and I know I'm in church. Y'all, please don't put me out. Elisha, you might have to get the keys if they run me out of here. But I was angry at God. Let's be real about that part, right? I was not safe to say that to a lot of people, because people will crucify you. How dare you get mad with God? Well, listen, if I can't be honest with my Father, who already knows me, nothing that I am experiencing and that I'm feeling and that I'm talking about takes him by surprise. If I can't be honest with him, who am I supposed to be honest with? I don't do fake. I struggle with fake, and I realize that, people do it for different reasons, but I just struggle with it. So I just feel like if I have to be honest with where I am in order for God to heal me. I was angry, so I didn't want to talk to God. And I'm not. I'm not finna talk to you, because how could you know what this man meant to me? How could you? And another transparent moment. Y'all pray for me. I tried to kill off some other people, because I named some people that I felt like he could have took it. Okay? Pastor Keisha, you with me? Yeah, right? Because I literally said, God, I got some friends who don't love their husbands the way that I love mine. Why didn't you take her husband? Because she would not have cared. I'm over here about to fall to pieces because you done took my husband. And this woman could care less what her husband doing. Take him. Listen. This is what I went through. This was my process. Y'all don't put me out. Don't judge me too harsh. But this was my process. I did. I named a few people. And I will say this. I went back and I repented here. Y'all, I did. I asked for forgiveness. And then I asked the Lord, please don't take that woman's husband. Because I said that. Please don't take that woman's husband. Because honestly, my prayer now is when I hear of spouses being sick, I pray, God, please, because I don't want another woman to feel like I've been feeling. I don't. That is my honest heart's prayer. But in this phase, I didn't care who he killed off. Just bring my husband back and go and kill somebody else. Somebody else will need to take his spot because this ain't working for me. But a lot of times that anger is really to cover up all those other vulnerable feelings that lie kind of beneath the surface. And I always equate it to like an iceberg. You know, if you ever see an iceberg, you only see but so much at the top, right? That's typically the anger. But that iceberg underneath that water is massive. That's all the emotions and feelings that my mind and my heart and my body could not handle in that moment. So anger I was most comfortable with. Most of us, if we were honest and transparent, we are more comfortable with displaying feelings of anger than we are sadness, hurt, pain, rejection, abandonment, because that's all the stuff that I was feeling. I felt abandoned by my husband. I felt abandoned by God. Because now what am I supposed to do? Now what my life gonna look like? Everything I did in my life, we did together because we were empty nesters. Elisha is my oldest. Our middle girl, she was in Japan. She's in the military, so she was in Japan at the time. And our son had just moved out a couple of months prior and got his own apartment. We were empty nesters, so we were enjoying life. We were excited because we had raised our kids. They were doing well for themselves. They didn't need mom and dad, and we were traveling. And now, Jesus? Really? Okay. So these were all the feelings that were going on, and we oftentimes will use anger to mask all of that. Not just in grief, y'all. When you get real angry about some stuff, I need you to pause a minute and say, wait a minute, that woman told me there's some other stuff going on. Let me look a little deeper. Because there's some other feelings and emotions that are under the surface. Not that your anger is not valid, but why is that the only emotion that you're showing? Because it's probably some stuff under there that gonna make you feel a little vulnerable, so I ain't gonna say nothing. I'm gonna just deal with the anger. Thank you. Third stage, bargaining. This is a defense against emotions. So, God, Lord, if you would just change the circumstances, change the outcome, I'll do. We're trying to make a deal with God now. That's all bargaining is we trying to, let's make a deal. What do you need from me, Jesus, to bring him back? Because whatever you need, I'm going to do it right now. Can I really hold up my end of the deal? But that's what we do. Why? Because, again, there's all these emotions that are coming up that I can't handle. So I'm trying to figure out every way possible to get out of those emotions. Everything else ain't working. The anger ain't working because he ain't killed nobody off. So now I'm going to say, okay, well, Jesus, let's make a deal. Let's talk about this, God. Let's talk about it. What can I do for you that will change your decision about my husband's lifespan on this earth? Don't ask that question, y'all, here. Don't ask that question. Because it's dangerous when you start to really think about it, because we really can't live up to what we claim we're going to give God. But it's one of the stages that we often go through, is trying to make that deal. Fourth stage, depression. This is that quiet stage. People say, well, how is depression quiet? Well, think about it. I'm isolating myself. I don't want to talk to anybody. People say, how you doing? Oh, I'm good. I'm fine. Thank you for asking. But deep down on the inside, I'm sinking. I am sinking. And the longer I stay there, the more I sink. The longer I don't talk to nobody, I don't engage, the more I sink. My daughter, my baby, let me say this caveat about my kids. My kids have not left my side since their dad left this earth. When I tell you they packed up their apartments, gave up their leases, and moved home with mom. But y'all, we was in, it was a hand clap, right? Because not everybody would do that. But we were living in a 3-bedroom trailer with 2 bathrooms, and one of the bedrooms couldn't be used because it was my office and it was a mess. So, oh my, it was a hot mess, and you got, what was it, 4 adults? 4 adults and 2 kids and a dog in this trailer. But my kids packed up their stuff. We got a storage unit, put what couldn't fit in the house in the storage unit, and said, we'll figure it out. And they never left my side. 6 months after their daddy transitioned from this life, we bought a 5-bedroom, 4.5-bathroom home with my children. With my children. And people have looked at them because Elisha is newly married. 3 years? Almost 3 years this year, right? 3 years this year. So she's newly married, and people are looking at her like, you gonna live with your mama? How your husband feel about that? And they looking at my son saying, but you 23, you young, you had your own apartment, you going to live with your mama. No, he not living with his mama, this is his house. She not living with her mama, this her house. But my son in love, I'm mom to him. I'm not an in-law to him. That's why we can make it work. And I mind my business, right? Most of the time. Well, I have grandbabies, Pastor Keisha. So I got grandbabies. And you know you can't mind your business when you got grandbabies because they my grandbabies, you know. And we done had a new addition. She 8 months old now. They can't, they my babies. Like, I'll give them to y'all when I'm done. But this stage here, I remember Elisha saying to me, so the homegoing service was in July, and I think 2 weeks after, I got COVID. 2 days? Was it? Okay. Two days later, I got COVID. And so I'm already struggling, right? Mind is just really gone. And now I got COVID, and I have to be in isolation away from the people who are really keeping me kind of going. And I got to be in isolation. And I'm laying in my room, and my room was already dark because I like it dark. I can sleep longer when it's dark in my room, right? So I got my windows darkened out, and I'm laying in my bed, and I'm getting out of bed less and less every day. Get up maybe to go to the restroom. Maybe I'll get something to eat. And Elisha said to me maybe a week or so later, she was like, Mommy, I was concerned because I started watching you not get out of bed. And she said to her husband, I don't want to have to bury my mom too. Because in this quiet stage, this is where people really do call it quits. This is the stage where people become actively suicidal. And I wasn't suicidal. I wasn't having thoughts of I want to kill myself, but I surely was not having thoughts of I'm excited to live either. I really just laid in my bed and I said it really didn't matter. If I wake up, I'm good. If not, because I didn't care. So this stage is really, really scary. It's really scary when you're going through grief. If you know anybody that's dealing with grief, you okay? I knew this was going to be hard for her. She's still grieving her daddy. She was a daddy's girl. She's real bad. She was real bad, a daddy's girl. And so I knew preparing today she was going to struggle. We talked through it last night, but it is what it is, y'all. We ain't even hit 2 years yet. July this year will be 2 years. So we still in the grieving process, right? Still in the grieving process. This stage is heavy. It's extremely heavy. You often foggy, can't think. I felt like I was all over the place. I couldn't put together a simple thought pattern because of this stage. And the final stage is acceptance. And we title this Understanding because it's not that I understand why this had to happen. I've just kind of dealt with like what this means for my life now. Understanding sometimes can bring about, or this acceptance, you almost feel guilty because it's like, if I get to this stage, people gonna think I done forgot about them. Well, you never forget your loved one. You don't. You never forget your loved one. Even again, when it's just the loss of a friendship, the friendship has parted ways. You never forget what you had with that person. This stage is just about, Richelle, you got to get up. You got to keep moving. And this man had said to me probably 2 weeks before he transitioned, he couldn't go to church. Well, I wasn't going because I need to stay home and take care of you. He was like, what are you doing? Why are you not dressed? I was like, well, I got to take care of you. He's like, no, set me up with what I need, and you got to go to church. And I looked at him, and I was kind of tussling with it, and he said to me, babe, no matter what happens with me, you have to keep going. You cannot stop. Promise me that you'll keep living. That's all this is. This stage right here is just me figuring out what my new normal is. Because I did everything with him. When you saw one, you saw the other. My husband was a sound man at our church. And so people would call him about, hey, can you come look at my sound? I was never left behind. I was always in the middle of whatever he was doing with sound. So when you saw one, you always saw the other. This simplifies, I have more good days today than I have bad days. Doesn't mean I don't cry, because I still cry because I miss my husband. I still sometimes don't understand. The thing about these stages, right, we talked about they're always moving, they're always changing. You can be in this stage today, and in 15 minutes from now, you could be in full depression again. People say, well, that don't make sense. The stage, remember, they are constantly moving, constantly changing, and you're in and out of them all the time. And it's a process. It's not over just like that. It is a process. Things can trigger your grief, right? I got triggered really, really bad last week because we have a sister in our church who, she was diagnosed with cancer not long after my husband, so they kind of were battling that fight together. And I got a call from my pastor, said, hey, I want the intercessors, we're going to go Sunday morning and we're going to pray with the sister. Absolutely, I'll be there. All right, no problem. Didn't realize that some stuff started coming up for me. But because I'm so focused on I got to go serve my sister and I got to be in the capacity of an intercessor in that moment, I pushed my stuff down. I just pushed it. It kept coming back up all week long, but I kept pushing it down. Now, as a therapist, I know that's wrong, okay? So please don't do what I did. I told my daughter, I said, I probably shouldn't have canceled my own therapy appointment that week, but I thought I was doing okay, so I didn't need it that week. But all week long, I had been fighting those feelings. And then we get up Sunday morning, and I'm on my way, and I'm praying the entire way that I get there. But my emotions are, I'm struggling. I am struggling so bad. God, in all his infinite wisdom, do you know he would not let me get to this house? The route that I went, because of the big rain that we had just had, was flooded. And I'm watching the cars kind of go through the water, and I'm like, I ain't taking my car through there, and I got on my church clothes. If I get stranded, who's supposed to come get me? Nah, we can't do this. So I said, okay, I'm going to do a U-turn, and I'm going to go around. That's what I thought. I'm going to go around. But every road that I was detoured to was flooded. I said, God, okay. After about 3 or 4 times of trying to get around this, I text my pastor, and I text in the group chat that we had, and I said, I'm not going to make it. All of the roadways are flooded. I'm going to head to the church. Just know that I'm praying. That was God in his wisdom. God knew that I was not mentally or emotionally prepared. Even though I was praying for my sister, I was not able to physically get there because I didn't know what I was going to see when I walked in. I immediately started triggering me back to the day my husband transitioned. I started seeing him. So my emotions were messed up. A smell can trigger. And them smells are powerful. I have walked through my house and smelled his cologne, and it stopped me in my tracks. Like, wait a minute. Now I know he not here. And I start looking around the house. Where'd that come from? Smells are powerful. We can watch things on TV and it'll trigger something. You can be in a conversation and hear something and it'll trigger. I've been in a room and I've heard people laughing, and my husband had a very crazy, distinct laugh, and I hear just a piece of it, and it'll make me. My sis here, she came to me one service we had, and it was a young man sitting in the back of our church, had just come to visit. And she came to me, she said, boy, I'm telling you, she said, nah, this man sitting back here looking like my brother, and I know my brother gone. And that boy did, Lord knows, sitting in the back of that church, he looked just like my husband. It messed us up. We had to do double takes, like, wait a minute. Something as simple as we got a new sound system in our church. And the first time that they cut that sound system on and they began to talk through the speakers and the music began to play through the sound system, I broke like a baby. Because that was my husband's baby. That was his thing. He had been screaming for years, we need a new sound system, and they ain't want to spend the money. Now he gone, you ain't got no choice. Because can't nobody make it sound good no more. But it was a trigger for me because it was something that he was attached to. So be mindful of your triggers. You got to know, what am I capable of doing in this moment? And be okay with telling people, I don't have the capacity to do that for you today. Right? I thank God for my circle because I have one sister, Prophetess Brenda. Now, to know Prophetess Brenda, you know that Prophetess Brenda is not the touchy-feely person. She don't give hugs. And she's like the woo, 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 I love you, and I'm going to pray for you, but don't hug me. I don't like to be touched. My evangelist, Sierra, don't touch me. Now she gonna pray you under the benches, okay? But Sierra is not that touchy-feely, let me lay in your arms and love on you kind of person. But when I tell you, my sister showed up for me, I have never laid in Sister Brenda's arms more since my husband left this earth than what I had. This girl has just let me lay on her and rest on her and be whatever I needed to be, even though she probably cringing. Like, Jesus, why are you doing this to me? But what I figured out that they too were in grief. They were very close to my husband. Prophetess Brenda and my husband, we always joke that y'all siblings for real. Like, she was the female version of my husband. They had so many similarities, like this little quirky stuff about them. I was just like, what is up with y'all two? So they always called each other brother and sister. So when he transitioned, she struggled. But she took care of me in the process. So there's some do's and don'ts that we want to give you about helping people. Do not tell people how to grieve or how long they should be grieving. Okay? Please don't tell me, sis, it's been 2 years now. It's time for you to get it together. Right, Pastor Keisha, yeah, okay. Because, yeah, don't take that down the street somewhere because I'm not the one. I really have lost my ability to control some stuff. Cause he would, when I was going left, Sister Shell. And if he called me sister, I knew I was like, I said, I went too far. He was like, yeah, babe, yeah, you done went too far. Well, I ain't got that now. Jesus be trying to tell me, but sometimes I be not listening. I'm trying to do better. Trying to do better. But don't tell people how to grieve and how long to grieve. It's their process. It's their journey. This was their relationship that they lost, and you're not in it with them. You don't know what people have to endure when they go home at night. You don't know. You don't know what people are facing. So let them do their process. What you can, okay, I'm gonna come back to that. Do not make grieving. Okay, I'm sorry. Don't make those who are grieving responsible for your healing. I had that happen to me. Friend of mine, very close to my husband. She was grieving. She was grieving the loss of her friend. But she kept looking to me for answers on how to grieve. Ma'am of God, I need you to go figure it out with Jesus, okay? Because I got I got my own grief. I have nothing for you, right? And I remember saying to her, I appreciate you being here. Thank you for everything that you're doing for me and my family. But I have nothing to give you. I ain't got no answers. Stop looking to me. Don't make people that are grieving responsible for your healing in the grief process. It's not fair to them. It's not fair. They're empty. They trying to figure out their own. Don't do that to people. That's not fair. And if you don't know what to say, you don't know how to show up, go to God. Please go have a conversation with the Father. I promise you, he'll tell you how to do it. He'll tell you how to show up. He'll tell you how to figure it all out. And don't tell them, oh, they wouldn't want you crying. Now, I thank God that nobody said that to me. I thank God. That was not my testimony, but I've heard it done to other people that, oh, your loved one wouldn't want you crying. Well, that's a lie, because my husband knew me, and he knew I was going to act a fool when he left here and be all depressed and half not make it. He knew that. Don't tell me what my loved one would have wanted for me. Now, and even if what you're saying is right, now's not the time. Let me go through my stages. Let me go through my processes. What you can be doing, okay, I keep jumping to that. Thank you. So on the next one, show up. What does show up mean? It means be present, be available, and be quiet sometime. Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Sometimes practice silence. If you don't know what to say, and I get it. Listen, grief is hard. And it feels funny being in a predicament where, and especially for me, because I'm a therapist, right? By trade, I'm a therapist, but then I'm an evangelist. I always feel like I should be saying something. But sometimes I have to just be quiet and be present. And I might just have to walk, and I'm going to sit down here with you, right? And I'm not going to say nothing, but my presence is just going to let her know that if I need anything, she got me. Show up for people, right? My daughter is saying it. Listen, everybody want to gather around. We had a flood of people. The day we buried that man, everybody gone. That's when people need you the most. Can I tell you that? That you are needed more after the funeral than what you are leading up to. And that includes family, because family members, because life now has gone on for everybody else. But guess what? Life ain't moving for us. We still stuck in some stuff. Show up. And I'm not asking, listen, I'm not saying put your life on hold. and every single day you got to run to my house and sit for 4 or 5 hours after you done got off of work. I'm not saying that. But a phone call, a text message goes a long way when people are now in their life and they're trying to get back to work. Because you know your job only give you 3 days. Most jobs give you 3 days. I thank God I had the supervisor I had, because I'm trying to tell you 3 days was not nearly enough. Even when I went back to work a month later, she was kind enough to say, Richelle, just check your emails. I'm going to have your team of people come to me for all your issues. We don't always get that. See, they expect us, oh, you done had 3 days, you should be over it. Now I need you to come on back to work and be productive and do what you're supposed to do. That's not reality. So because the job is expecting them to show up and just act like nothing ever happened, you got to produce a space for them where they can come and be vulnerable. They can be transparent. When I was angry with God, I couldn't tell everybody that. So I called my prophetess Brenda, I called evangelist Sierra, and I said, can I say this to you? Because I felt safe enough that I wasn't going to be judged. How you an evangelist and you saying all of that about God? Well, guess what? God already knew I thought it. He already knew I said it. Why not say it out loud? That was my process of getting through to the other side. So show up for people. I can see it. Thank you very much. Do rejoice with them that rejoice and weep with them that weep. Romans 12 and 15. Stop telling people don't cry. Why? Right there. Weep with them that weep. Now, every time you meet up with me, you weeping harder than I am now, then that's a whole different conversation, right? I'm going to have to talk to you like, sis, I need you to go and tap out. Don't come back here, okay? Because you causing more problems. You causing more problems. But I'm not saying you can't cry. I'm not saying, I've had people in my circle that won't mention my husband's name. And they'll say, oh, I didn't know because I didn't want to make you upset. Well, baby, listen, you talking about him ain't going to make me think about him no more than I already do. It's not going to make me cry any more than I already do. Matter of fact, I get an attitude specifically with my church family when they don't talk about my husband because of everything that my husband was in that ministry. My husband served in every possible capacity in the ministry. So when people ain't talking about him and don't mention him from time to time, and now he is not your God. We're not going to make no shrine to him. That's not what I mean. But don't act like he didn't exist in the ministry. I'm okay. So I'll randomly bring him up in conversation because what y'all scared for, right? I need to know, and this is part of my process, I need to know that all that he did was not in vain. I need to know that just because he's left this life, his legacy is still living on. Part of my acceptance and still living is to honor the memory of my husband, to honor the legacy that my husband had in this earth. Do remind them that the peace of God, which passes all understanding, shall keep their hearts and guard their minds. Remind them of that. That when you're struggling and you're going through, God ain't forgot about you. He hasn't. I know this is hard. I know you don't understand. But God ain't forgot about you. One of the things that helped me to get through to the other side is I remembered, and they sing the song, or used to sing it years ago, I'm living this life just to live again. That song plays in my head. That song plays in my head a lot when I think about my husband and I start to question and ask God why. I'm like, well, wait a minute. This is what we was living for. Now, him and Jesus could have let me know a little bit sooner that this is what was going to happen. But, can't even be mad at that because I guess they told me I just wasn't listening. I had blind faith. I did. I didn't see this at all, at all. Um, but, it does help to remind me that, like, my husband lived the life. He did. And when the Father allowed me to see my husband standing, saw it in a vision, saw him standing. And I didn't know that my daughter saw the exact same vision almost the exact same time that I did in the same room. Didn't know that for a few days later. I think we were talking. She saw the same vision. My husband is resting in the Father. And I'm grateful that he's resting with the Father. This probably would be a little bit harder if he was unsaved. I would really struggle. But that has been my turning point. I think the thing that has helped me the most. Not that I don't miss him. Not that I don't wish things could be different. And oftentimes we'll talk about, man, if Daddy was here, Daddy would say, Daddy would do. We talk about it all the time. My poor son, I know he was sick of me because probably for the first year, every time I went to call him, his name is Tyler. But every time I went to say Tyler, I said TC. That was his dad. Because he split an image of him. Sound like him, act like him, everything. Don't he act like him? Really bad. Acts just like his dad. Just like him. So, it's my way of kind of keeping his memory alive, really. Because I don't want to forget about him. And remember that in this grief journey, there's no right or wrong way to do this thing. Nobody has the template for this. You know the stages, you know what they look like and feel like. Pay attention to the people that are around you. Pay attention if you go through loss. Pay attention to it. And don't let people make you feel like you doing too much. Because, people will do that. She doing too much. What I found out is that my grief, my tears made other people uncomfortable, and that's really what the problem was. Because they hadn't dealt with theirs. Well, you're not finna put that on me. That's on you. That's your thing. You don't want to deal with your grief? Sorry, not sorry. Because I'm going to let mine be on full display. I have to. So it was not abnormal on Sunday mornings for me to sit and I'm sobbing. And thank God for Evangelist Darlene and Evangelist Sierra that they knew. Sometimes they came to me. Sometimes they just let me be. But they protected and shielded me. So too many people couldn't get to me. That's the whole another side of this, right? Don't let everybody be in your people's ear. If you, listen, we brothers and sisters in Christ, right? You say you love me. Stop letting Sally over here, who don't mean me no good, talking a whole bunch of foolishness, keep talking in my ear. Where is my circle? We should be taking care of one another, protecting one another. And I thank God again for my church family, for my family. My mother shielded me. My children, I had talked them off the ledge for some stuff because I was like, hey, don't say that. No, Mommy, we gonna handle. Don't. You were fine. It's not fine, y'all. Here, y'all just pray, because when they get tired, it's not gonna be pretty. My church family, one of my sisters, y'all, I'm gonna tell this story, but I ain't gonna tell you who said it. But I talked to one of my sisters last night, and she going through with her neighbors, and we probably live maybe 10 minutes from each other, 15 max. And I said, okay, you got problems? What we need to do? Say less, because I will put my sneakers on. They don't know. Don't play with us. So if I got my sister over something that small, what more am I going to do to protect her in the spirit realm? And this whole grieving process, this is a spiritual thing, y'all. It is. Yes, it's happening naturally, but you need the presence of God. You need the Spirit of God to get through this. I've had people call me. A girlfriend called me from North Carolina. She saw a picture that I took in September. I was on vacation around my birthday. And it was a hard vacation for me because it was this vacation that my husband and I would have taken together. And I was with a bunch of church family, and we went down to the beach. And I think did you take the picture? I think somebody took the picture of us on the beach. And I had both hands thrown up in the air, and I was like, hey. And my girlfriend seen it on Facebook, and she called me. And she said, I looked at the picture, and I just had to call and ask you because I need to know, how did you get here? How did you get to that with everything that happened? Because she had recently lost her husband. And I said, well, what that picture didn't show you was like half an hour before that, I was sitting in the backyard near the pool in tears because I was missing my husband. So the picture don't show everything, right? But I got to where I am. It is by the grace of God. It is by the grace of God. People were praying for me that I didn't even realize were praying for me. And how diligently they were praying for me, because I've had literally miracles happen in me, that I wasn't praying for. So I know my sisters were praying because they knew what I needed when I didn't know what I needed. So help people get through this whole process. Again, remember, we're looking at the ocean, remembering grief coming in. Soon as that one wave hit, y'all know it's another one right behind it, right? Before that wave can even hit the shore and come back, another one has already hit. That's grief. Oh, before we get, and this is your list of scriptures you guys can take a picture of. Don't get stuck in none of the phases. That's the danger zone of the phases, is getting stuck. A lot of people get stuck in two areas: anger and depression. And it's very easy to get stuck in those. I got stuck in anger. So much so to the point where I said, I think I need to call a therapist. I need to be in therapy. Because this is not working, Jesus. I know you talking to me, but I do believe that God led me to this woman. She's a saved woman who is also a therapist. And so when we talk, she using Bible. She wearing me out in these sessions. I'm like, okay, Jesus, I thought I was doing better in that area. Guess not. Got to go back to the drawing board. But don't get stuck. Reach out to somebody. Be somebody's safe space while they grieving, while they going through, while they trying to figure out. They're going to make mistakes. They're going to be real ugly in their spirit some days. They not going to be happy. Them days that Pastor Frank was talking about, we got to go in the bathroom and pray because these demons is acting up today. But in my anger stage, I want to meet that demon where he at. And it ain't spiritual, Pastor Keisha. You hear me? I don't. Oh, that's what you think you gonna say? Oh, I got some stuff for you. And I ain't gonna say no cuss. I ain't gonna be one of them cussing saints, Pastor Frank. But I'm gonna put some stuff together. You would have wished I had said those cuss words. Okay, by the time I get done. And I don't try not to go there. So I was like, I need to go and get myself into some therapy. As a therapist, I condone therapists, seeing therapists. As a therapist, I'm saying to you as the church, it is okay to love God and have a therapist. Okay? Jesus is known as the wonderful counselor. He made people like me, like my daughter, who are saved in his word and know him to be counselors. So when you come to me, you better know what you're going to get. Ray can attest, because I puts it on him every time I see him. Put it on him. And I'm coming with the word. So I'm coming with the practical stuff that I know, and I'm going to back it up with the word. Don't get stuck no matter what you do. Don't get stuck. Any questions, comments, statements? No? Okay. Oh, all right. All right, hit me. I'm not going to say that it's not normal because I think a lot of people do it. Absolutely. But I think it goes back to the denial stage. It's your coping mechanism right now because that's all you can kind of handle because it has been a lot. But the reason that we say don't get stuck is because what exactly you're talking about happens. When enough becomes enough and I'm full to the brim, now I'm having this breakdown. And it ain't just one thing, it's like 20 things coming all at once, right? At some point, you have to slow down and start to process and pick apart the emotions and the feelings and the thought processes around all of your losses. Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Hmm. Right. So, couple of things. Um, I definitely don't want you sitting around, especially being alone, because we don't want to go into isolation when we're feeling this stuff, right? Um, there is a book that as therapists we're encouraged to read. It calls the body keeps score. And the purpose and what this book basically talks about is even when you don't acknowledge stuff, your body does. And I think Pastor Mia talked about it this morning when she said about you'll find yourself getting sick and things of that nature. So instinctively around somewhere between the 5th and the 8th of every month, my daughter, myself, my son, we start to get a little moody, get a little cranky, and most of the time I don't even recognize what the date is until one of them say, "Mom, you okay?" I'm fine. Mom, Mom, you're not fine. You're a little bit snappy, right? And eventually I'll be like, "Oh man, yeah, I noticed I've been snappy, right?" And I was like, "I don't know what is wrong with me. What is wrong? Like, where's that coming from?" And Elisha will say, "Well, Mom, tomorrow's the 8th, or today's the 6th." And it's instinctively right around that time of month, every single month. And it's been like that since he transitioned, that I will instantly feel it without even acknowledging it. So I'm not going to say for you, don't sit, even if you don't go away, don't sit around isolated by yourself. You have to have the way to get out of that is you're going to have to, you've taken the first step because you recognize it, right? That's the first step is I recognize it. Now you need to find some trusted people that when that time of year comes, it's okay to go away because it's your birthday, right? Let's go celebrate. But acknowledge the thoughts and feelings of dad. What do you do to acknowledge your dad and his memory? He's forever going to be a part of you, even if he went a total opposite month, completely way, way away from your birthday, you would still always feel the same thing because it's something about those major holidays. Yours is your birthday, mine is my anniversary, right? That I'm always going to be missing him. So you need to have trusted people in your circle who will say, "Hey, I know you're going away, but like you not," and the reason that like you have to stay busy and all of that is because you're not acknowledging still the pain that you feel. It's a possibility you have not processed all of the grief. You didn't process it all the way through because we do that. We'll cry a little bit and we think because we don't cried a few months, maybe, you know, 6 months to a year, that we over it now. Well, that's not processing, that's just you crying. What's going on here and what's going on here? Because that's where the processes are, here and here. And if you haven't dealt with this and this, that's why I always, like my sis here, I got to stay busy because I ain't got time. I don't have time to deal with all of that. Because if I really stop, because and I'm assuming you are not stopping because you feel like if I stop and deal with it, everything else around me gonna fall to pieces because I'm gonna fall to pieces. Sometimes, baby, let the chips fall where they may, and somebody got a broom or come along and help you sweep it up later. I didn't care what was falling down around me. I didn't, because I didn't have the capacity to even attempt to keep it together. I didn't even have the thought process to even try to keep it together. It's okay if it falls apart. I guarantee you it won't shatter to the point where it won't be able to be put back together again if you let God do it. So sometimes you come into this altar and I might just have to go for broke, and y'all, can y'all please leave me alone today? Don't grab me out of the floor. Let me stay, because Jesus might be working on something while I'm in this floor. And you pulling me up because we got to move to the next phase of the service. Let you, yeah, this is it. You go to this church, ma'am? No. Do you have a home church? Wherever your home church is, you might need to find, if there's some safe people. It might be people in your family. It might be friends. It doesn't necessarily have to be church. But we should be able to come in the house of God and completely fall apart. I did it too. I came in and, I'm the evangelist and I'm the head of the sound team, and I got the pastor's armor bearer, and so I got to look the part. I'm on duty. Guess what? Them duties figured themselves out, because I just did not have the capacity to do it. And as a matter of fact, for a month after Daddy passed away, I didn't even attend my church. I didn't. I called my pastors. I said, I cannot come back here, because it was hard for me. We have a vestibule very similar to what you guys have back there. I walked in the vestibule and got stuck for 15 minutes trying to just get in the sanctuary. And thank God my sisters took me on a day when nobody was there, because they knew what was going to happen. Even the first day that I went back, the only reason I actually went back is because we were in our convocation and all the churches were meeting at my church, so I ain't had no other choice but to go. But even that day, I sat to the back. My sisters got on each side of me, and when I needed to lose it, they let me lose it and go through my emotions. That's what you need. That's what you need. Let it fall apart. Because as long as you keep holding on to it, God can't. Where's there room for him to move? If you like, God, I got this, chill. Got it, we good. I'm coming in here, shout, hallelujah. And I'm praising the Lord and singing on praise and worship. And I'm working. I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing. But I'm jacked up. I gotta let it fall apart. I have to. And you have to trust that the people around you are gonna pick you up. When I started breaking and really falling apart, my sisters gripped me. And they say, yeah, let it go. Come on. Go and let it break. Because we're not doing this no more. We're not doing this. We got to get you out of this space so you can move on to the next space, and we'll deal with that space when we get there. But for right now, we got to let you break. You have to break. I couldn't hold it anymore. It was too much. And the downside to holding: heart attacks, high blood pressure. Those things are very real. And we already fighting them as a community, right? Because they tell us, high blood pressure run really bad for black people. A lot of times it's just stress. We have more stress than, our counterparts sometimes. And then when you start dealing with losses, unprocessed grief is what you're feeling. How much sleep you get at night? You know why? Because even though that body lay down, mine's still going. Because all the stuff that you think about and that you want to talk about, that you need to talk about, you're not even releasing to the Father. I know it's hard. It is. It's hard. It's not an easy walk at all. This is why you need people who will love you back to the Father when that's the last place you feel like you want to be. Because I didn't. I don't want to talk to Jesus right now. Just mad at him. But my sisters knew, in spite of me being mad, they knew what I needed. And they kept offering me back up to the Father. My girls had Prophetess Brenda and Evangelist Sierra lived together. And when I tell you, my girls had shifted their whole house to make room for me, that if I didn't want to go back home, I had a place to go. Oh, your kids coming? Okay, no problem. We got y'all. Everybody can come. Just bring the whole house. That's the kind of people, that's the circle you need. If you don't have that circle, you might need to rethink some stuff. Because you can't afford to not have people like that in your life. Staying busy ain't going to cure it. It's just you stuck in the denial phase. Any more questions? You want to wait a minute? No. Okay. Sis. You had a question? Uh-huh. Yeah. Therapy's good. And there are good Christian therapists out there, okay? I knew for me, I have a ton of colleagues that are good at their job, but I didn't need you just being good at your job. I needed you to be versed in the word because that's where I live. Right? I needed you to be able to understand when I talk about church stuff, I needed you to be able to get that. And don't be telling me just Joe Blow stuff because they ain't what you believe in. I don't want to hear that. So I found a good therapist who is saved, who knows the word, that every time, I told y'all, every time I meet with her, she on me. She on me. But it's in the word. Yeah. Yeah. Let me change the language for you. Let me give you new language. You don't have to get over it. Okay? Those were your parents. And it's even more impactful when you've lost as a child. It's hurtful as an adult, right, to lose someone. Um, but I couldn't imagine my children being younger and having had lost their dad. I don't know how I would have helped them. I believe that the Lord would have helped me, but I know it would have been harder. So you're not just dealing with grief as an adult. You're grieving the little girl who lost mom and dad, the young woman who lost. Hmm, your mom's still here, so is dad. How old? That's hard. Daddy's girl. Yeah, ain't we all? Yeah, yeah. That's hard. That's hard. You lost him at a very crucial time in your life. So the 14-year-old you is who's crying. And the adult you is trying to, like, girl, chill out. Like, we good, we all right, settle down. That's not the way it works. When we see and I know y'all gonna be looking around tomorrow morning in church. When you see these adults acting out, hollering and carrying on, throwing temper tantrums, that's all it is. Don't they look like 2-year-olds in adult bodies? Unhealed trauma. unhealed trauma. That's all it is. It's somewhere along the line, something happened to you, somebody made you mad, somebody didn't show up for you, somebody abandoned you, somebody rejected you, and you grew up as an adult because you didn't know how to deal with it as a child. And now as an adult, because we give ourselves these mindsets of, I tell you what, I'm grown now, I bet you won't do it again. Say that to me now. You said it to me as a child. Say it to me now. This is the stuff that we say. We make these inner vows. I will never let someone do or say. It's all unhealed trauma. And so you, the adult you now sitting here, is trying to shut her up over in this corner. And she's saying, but hold on a minute. You never healed me. You kept growing, but I'm still 14 over here. So the adult version of you is denying the 14-year-old version of you of remembering her father who meant everything to her. Yeah, that's what's happening. We do it. Yes, ma'am. We do it all the time. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Okay. Yes, ma'am. That's right. That's right. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That is absolutely possible. And what that also tells me is that there's a level of inner healing and deliverance that has to take place, right? Because you're right, we will always remember. We don't forget things that people say or do to us, especially when they're traumatic, right? They make an imprint, an impression in our souls, which is why inner healing and deliverance is so necessary, because honestly, trauma is can run so deep that it's so imprinted on your soul now it's become infected and festered. You have gone through your therapy, you've gone through all of that, but there still, it sounds like there still maybe is a release that needs to happen, so that yes, I can remember it, but I don't necessarily have to live in these phases of grief about it. It is what has now made me and projected me into the woman that I am today. Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah. Well, because his passing was a trigger, right? His passing triggered all the stuff, the memory of all the stuff. That's why it came back up. And it's okay to still cry about that, because remember, and to still feel those feelings, because remember I said that you can be grieving for years and years and years and years and years. Doesn't mean you're not functioning. Doesn't mean that you're not well. It just simply means, like, yeah, I still struggle with that a little bit. Sometimes I still struggle with just the memory of it. Sometimes I just struggle with, why couldn't it have been different? Sometimes I think too, when we can't have conversations with those people, we don't, I will say this, the conversation is good, and if you can have the conversation, have the conversation. But we're not always going to be able to have a conversation with those people, even if they still living, because sometimes it just ain't possible. They ain't open to it. It's going to cause you more problems. You're going to have to heal whether they converse with you or not. It is your responsibility. So what I will say to you is, take those things back to the Father and ask him, God, okay, I feel like I've done my due diligence. I went to therapy. I feel like I got delivered. But God, maybe there's some places in me that this keeps coming up and I keep grieving it. Because you might still feel the grief, but it shouldn't be on a deep level all the time. Eventually it goes to, I still feel it, but I'm okay. Take it back to the Father. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I agree. Yeah, I agree. I agree. Some things the enemy knows, like, let me still play with that and still see if I can get an end to annoy her, or to make her feel less than, or to make her feel, because she's claiming deliverance. I got to make her retract that statement. So here you go. Now, are you delivered now? You keep telling him you delivered, because that's your victory. That's your victory. Thank y'all so much. I appreciate every one of you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.